Good evening, guys. Today we're going to talk about the illustration essay. Okay. Students will write 3 to 4 essays in English 1101. The illustration essay requires students to provide particular details, specific details, and examples about a subject matter they are already familiar with. The assignment is going to require you to write 600 to 750 words. So this is a 600 to 750 word essay about a subject you know very well. Your job is to assume that your audience doesn't know anything about the subject, and you then have to describe and provide ample examples and details so that your audience, your reader, will know about the assignment. Okay. All right. Let's move forward. Okay. Let's define what we're talking about here. What does it mean to illustrate? To illustrate, guys, you're going to make clear or intelligible as by examples or analogies. Another name for an illustration essay is an exemplary essay. So basically, you're going to clarify one's words or writings or etc. with examples. And this is to prevent any misunderstandings, but more importantly, and it's to help the audience or the reader understand what you are talking about. Okay, so what is an illustration essay? An illustration essay, sometimes called an example essay or an exemplary essay, is written to portray a particular concept with evidence. So look at the diagram. You have key concepts backed by evidence, and typically this type of essay is done for 3 reasons. You're going to you want to stimulate interest in a certain topic. You want to clarify a point or some key concepts to make sure that the reader understands it, or you want to persuade the audience to your way of thinking, okay? So the illustration essay is really about providing lots of details, and let me correct that, not lots of details, but it's about providing quality details, specific details to help the reader understand more about that topic, okay? A lot of your how-to essays come from this. So how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, how to wash clothes properly, how to change a tire. Typically, these are the type of essays that you see for when we're talking about illustrating an illustration essay, okay? Okay, so look at these diagrams on here. I purposely included these pictures because when we typically think about illustrations, we think of drawings. So on the left-hand side, you see like a cat, you see a children's book, and that's typically what we think of when we think of illustrations. But if you also notice in 2 of the images on the left-hand side, you see words. You can illustrate something in writing, right? You can illustrate something verbally. And so on the right-hand side, you see a notepad, because sometimes you need to write out the instructions so that someone knows how to get there or do that item. For instance, if a new friend is going to go to your house, they need directions to how to get there. They may not have GPS, or if they do have GPS, they first need your address, right? And so once you give them your address, and they plug it into the GPS is going to give them step-by-step instructions on how to go from their house to your house, no matter how far away it is. And that's pretty much what an illustration essay does. You're going to give your audience step-by-step instructions, step-by-step details and examples explaining whatever your topic is about. Okay, so for all of your essays, you're going to go through something called the writing process. So the writing process includes brainstorming, outlining, rough draft, peer review, and final draft. Now, it's important to note that for this essay, you're only going to turn in the outline and the final draft, but don't skimp on the writing process. Going through these steps will help you flesh out your ideals, develop your ideals, and figure out what you want to write about when you pick your topic, and it'll help you to hone your writing skills. Okay, so let's talk about the topics. So for this first essay, like I said, you're going to do the illustration essay. You need to look at what topics are available. So for the first 2 essays that you're going to write for this class, I will pick the topics for you. And then for the final essay, you will be allowed to choose your own. But for this first essay, I will give you the topics that you must choose from. Okay, so what are the topics? So the first thing is there are 6 categories. Okay, so the categories are family, behavior and personality, education, politics and social issues, media and culture, and rules for living. So that's the first thing. You have 6 categories that you can choose from, but you're only going to pick one. That's the first step. The second step is once you've chosen a category, you'll notice that under each category, there are subtopics that you can write about. Okay. Now, you're not going to write about all of those subtopics, those subgenres, right? You are only going to cover one topic in that area. So for instance, let's look at family. Say like I decide that I know a lot about family. I'm a family person. I have 2 little girls. So I think I can really write a lot about this. So I'm going to pick the category of family. But as I look under that category, I noticed that there are three subtopics that I can talk about. In happy families, talk is the main activity. Grandparents relate more closely to grandchildren than to their children. Sooner or later, children take on the personalities of their parents. Okay, so those are 3 quality topics. However, those are 3 different topics. I'm not going to write about all 3. My job is to pick only one of them. And so I'm looking through those 3 and I think, you know what? I kind of like the third one. Sooner or later, children take on the personality of their children. So I am going to start brainstorming about that subtopic. I picked the category, which was family. I read the subtopics under that category and I chose one. My essay, when I begin to write it, is only going to focus on sooner or later how children take on the personalities of their families, take on their personalities of their parents, right? I'm not going to talk about grandparents relating to their children. I'm not going to talk about how communication is key in families. Those are 2 separate subtopics, and that has nothing to do with the topic that I've chosen for this essay, okay? So that's important. So as you go through the topics, pick what category that you want, and then under that category, which one of those subtopics will you focus on? Do not try to write on all of them, okay? So the purpose is just to pick one. You want to narrow this down as quickly as possible, okay? All right, so now that you know what the topics are, and hopefully you have an idea of what topic you want to do, let's move on to the next thing. So the next step is you're going to brainstorm. What is that going to look like? Okay. So brainstorming can be done in a myriad of ways. You can do cloud mapping. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, here is kind of like a cloud map, and it's been called several different things. But essentially what you do is you write your phrase, your sentence, or your word in the middle, you circle it. And then from there, you brainstorm for 5 or 10 minutes, and whatever thoughts come to mind, you write those down. So you can see on here, this person wrote the when, the how, the when, the where, the why, the what, and then they kind of just jotted down words that follow that thought pattern, right? So you do that for 5 or 10 minutes, but there are other types of brainstorming that you can do. You can collaborate in groups. You can collaborate, on Teams or on Blackboard. But for this assignment, this is an individual assignment. So if you look at the top here, here's a group of people that are brainstorming. Maybe it's a work project that they have to do, and because they have to do it together, they're brainstorming some ideas. At the bottom, you can see I really like this illustration because it's all about the ideal, coming up with the ideal, then planning, then coming up with some action. And then for this essay, collaboration could be maybe you ask a friend or a mom to say, hey, what ideas can I think about, right? And so that's where a little bit of that collaboration can come in. And then finally, in the right-hand corner, you're jotting down your notes, your thoughts, and your ideals. So you can do a bullet list, you can write sentences, you can write you can write little phrases or words, whatever comes to mind, but the key is to jot down your thoughts. So you cannot write on a topic if you don't know what you already know about that topic. And brainstorming allows you to get what's up here onto the page. Okay, so we're slowly going through the writing process. We reviewed the topics, we chose a topic, we brainstorm about that topic. So the next step is to write the outline. The outline is actually the first assignment that you will upload to Blackboard for the illustration essay. Okay, so for the outline, you're going to submit something called an MLA sentence outline. So there are two key words in here, MLA and sentence. MLA is the format, the structure that the outline needs to be in. When we talk about the essays, your essays will have to be structured in MLA style as well, but we'll get to that later. Sentence, a lot of times, especially if you're in K through 12, they don't really require a formal outline. And so students have been allowed to do like phrases and words, like I'm going to talk about dogs and cats and food and genre and etc. And so there's very little details. However, with the MLA outline, you have to flesh out your thoughts and your ideals. So once you've brainstormed, you will take some of those ideals, put them in sentence form on this MLA outline. And the reason you want to do it in a sentence form is because then you can take those sentences, pull them off of the outline, copy and paste them and put them in a Word document, and you have the bare bones of your essay, and you just have to fill it in with the content. And so that's why we're doing the formal MLA sentence outline. Okay, so let's look at what this entails. So in the right-hand corner, you are going to include your last name and first name. Your last name and page number. So like my last name is James-Griffin, I would just put James-Griffin, space, and then it would have the page number, and the first page is 1. Okay. Now, the next thing you would need to put is a working title. And I say a flexible working title because what I don't want you to put is, okay, my title is illustration essay, essay 1. That's not creative. One of the first things that a reader will see is the title. So you want to make sure that the title is as engaging as possible. Okay, after the title, the next thing you're going to have is a thesis statement. It's a 1-sentence statement containing the 3 parts: identification, direction, and claim. And we're going to talk about the thesis statement in more detail on another slide. Okay, so after the thesis statement, you'll see that there are Roman numerals. For this example, there's a Roman numeral 1 and a Roman numeral 2. Those tend to be your topic sentences and that's probably the start of your paragraphs. So remember, paragraphs have the topic sentences, and then after the topic sentences, the details, the sentences that are in the paragraph refer back to that topic sentence, and it talks about giving you examples and details and information about that topic sentence, right? And so this is going to help you structure your essay. So Roman numeral 1, you're going to have a topic sentence. It's a complete sentence that explains the main ideal for that paragraph. All right, then the letters A and B will cover what details that you're going to refer to, right? So for instance, it says subject A for all capital letters. You're going to write a sentence about what you will offer as proof from your experience to support that main ideal, okay? And then 1 and 2, the numbers, are basically going to highlight the specific details and examples that's going to support whatever statement that you've made, okay? Notice that each number should contain a sentence that provides that information, the specific support details and examples. And then for every 1, there must be a 2. Okay, for every A, there also must be a B. So this is the structure of the essay. This is the structure for the outline. And once you do this, I promise you, it'll be so easy to write that first draft, because once you write the outline, you've practically written the essay, and then it's just a matter of plug and play. So that's very important. So a copy of this template is on Blackboard. It is attached to the first outline assignment so that you can download this and actually it's a Word document and you will be able to plug and play. Take out this information and put in yours. There's also a sample copy of the outline, and we're going to kind of review that in a few minutes. That is also attached to the outline Dropbox. Okay, so here's a sample, just a part of it. So you'll notice that I have my last name, James-Griffin, top right-hand corner. I have a title, a working title, the most influential award goes to. I have my thesis. I was influenced heavily by my mother, especially throughout my developmental years, and she is the reason why I have a love for different people and cultures. Now, it's important to note that this essay is written in first person. However, your essay, all three of your essays are going to be written in third person, okay? So this is just a sample of how to structure the outline. So third person point of view is where you're gonna do the he, she, it, them, they form, whereas this is first person and it's personal, okay? All right, so let's look at how I structured this. So I've given you the thesis statement, correct? Now, my Roman numeral 1 is I was homeschooled by my mother from the age of 3 to 16. So that's my topic sentence. That'll probably be my first paragraph. And then A and B are going to give me the details. It's going to give the reader the details. And then the 1 and 2 is going to give you specific examples of those details. Okay, so let's look at Roman numeral 1. So on Roman numeral 1, I said I was homeschooled by my mother from the age of 3 to 16. Under Roman numeral 1, letter A says she taught me all kinds of things and I became excited to learn more from her. So I'm giving you information. So now I'm going to give you 1 and 2. Now I'm going to get very specific. So notice I went from broad, and now I'm slowly going down to the specific details that support my claim, right? And so what is the evidence? Well, let's see. She broadened my imagination and I learned how to read and love literature. She explained the importance of math and science and demonstrated the role each played in the grand scheme of things. So now I'm getting into the heart of who my mother is and why she's most influential, okay? B, her enthusiasm for exploring and learning was contagious. Well, how? Well, her eyes lit up every time she discussed animals and places and things. She posted a world map on my living room wall. So I'm providing you examples. So I told you what she did, why she's influential. I gave you a detail about it, and then I gave you a specific example of that. And those are the steps that you want to take, okay, in your essay. And in fleshing out, developing your outline will help you see where the holes are. Did I provide information? Did I provide details? Did I give a specific example of what I'm referring to? Okay, again, this outline can be found on Blackboard. Okay, so we've been going through the steps so far. So we chose a topic, we brainstormed about that topic. After we brainstormed, we did a brief outline for the topic. And then the next step is pretty much to start doing the essay drafts. So in this stage, in this area, you're going to do the rough draft and the final draft. Okay. But before we get to writing the essay, we have to make sure that we know what the requirements are. Okay. One of the things that you will find in the Dropbox attached to the outline Dropbox is the guidelines, because you can't start writing this essay without knowing what are the requirements, right? So attached to the outline, to the illustration outline Dropbox, you will find a sample outline template. You will find the outline template instructions, and now you will also find the instructions for the entire essay, okay? So let's look at some of the instructions. 1, you have to adhere to all the guidelines, no matter how small. Your thesis statement must contain the 3 parts: identification, claim, and the direction. We'll talk about that in more detail, but the main thing is to know that a thesis is not a question, it's not a quote, and it is not a statement of fact, okay? A thesis has to be something that can be argued, that can be disputed. Okay, your word count is going to be 600 to 750 words. I know that on the screen it says 800. From time to time, I will increase or decrease the amount. But for this essay, your word count needs to be 600 to 750 words, no more or no less. You don't have to worry about the works cited page for this first essay because you cannot use any outside sources. When I talk about outside sources, that's interviews or quotes, going to other websites. Anything that you did not come up with on your own is considered an outside source. That's why you have to brainstorm. That's why you have to think about, that's why you should pick a topic that you know really well, that you can write on without trying to say, I need a stat, or I need to go online to figure out what can I do for this information? What information can I add? Okay, so it all has to come from, all of it has to come from you. Okay. Each paragraph is going to should contain 5 to 7 sentences. The reason that specification is there is so that you can get rid of the fluff, so that you don't write too much per paragraph, but more importantly, that you don't write too little. Sometimes students will write a 3-sentence paragraph and think that they've explained that topic, that subtopic thoroughly, and they have not. So requiring you to write at least 5 to 7 sentences kind of forces you to really think about what do you want to say in each paragraph and leave out the fluff. Okay. Now, let's talk about MLA style. So the rest of this is really MLA style. Your essay is going to be written, is going to be an MLA formatted essay. So what does that mean? So you're going to have a header in the upper top left-hand right-hand corner, and your header is going to be, it's going to contain your last name and the page number. No fancy fonts or formats. The heading, which is going to be in the left-hand corner, which is the opposite of the header, you're going to have your name, my name, which is Professor James-Griffin, the course English 1101, and then you're going to list the date. But the date is going to be day, month, year. And here's an example of that. Okay. Next, you're going to make sure that you have a title, a working title. You're going to capitalize the first letter in the important words in the title. So words like the, and, is, those words are not typically capitalized in the title unless it's the first word in the title. Okay. You're going to indent the first line of every paragraph. You're going to use Time New Roman font, and your essay is going to be double spaced. Another formality for this essay, because this is a formal essay, you're not going to use contractions. Words like can't, won't, isn't, haven't, all of those will be spelled out. So can't becomes cannot, won't becomes will not, okay? And again, like I've said before on the other slide, your essay must be written in third person point of view. That's the he, she, it, them, they form. And you're not going to use I, we, or us or our, because that's first person. And also you will not use you or yours because that's second person point of view, okay? Now, let's move on to the thesis statement. How do you write a quality thesis statement, and what are the requirements? Okay, so there's 3 main requirements for this essay, for this thesis statement. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the first 2. So 1, your thesis statement must be the last sentence in the intro. 2, it has to be 1 sentence. Now I hear the wheels turning and you're like, wait, I've written thesis statements before, and they can be the first sentence in the introduction. They can be in another paragraph. And more importantly, a thesis statement can be anywhere from 1 to 3 sentences. All of that is correct. I agree with you, that is correct. However, you must crawl before you can walk. I need to know that you can write a quality thesis statement before I allow you to do that, okay? And what I have found, since this is typically the first class that most students take when they enter college, I have found that they struggle with writing a quality thesis statement. So for all 3 essays in this class, your essay is going to be the last sentence in the introduction, and it's going to be 1 sentence. Okay, so those are the first 2 parameters. The last parameter, the third parameter, is that thesis statement, that 1 sentence that's in the last sentence of your introduction, it should contain these three things: identity, claim, and direction. Identity basically means what is the topic of your essay. The claim is what is your stance about that topic? And more importantly, the direction, what are you going to talk about that topic, okay? And that should be included in that one sentence. Now that may seem like a lot, but I'm going to show you an example so you can kind of see how this looks. All right, so let's go through the example. A pre-writing example. So step one, you're going to choose a topic from the list. Now, I chose a topic from a different list. I teach this from semester to semester, and we alter some of the topics that we use. So from one of the topics that I've done before, I chose alcoholism. Okay, so now that I've chose the topic of alcoholism, I decided that I was going to brainstorm because that's a part of the writing process. And so I decided I was going to do something called clustering. I wrote the word alcoholism in the middle. And then for 5 or 10 minutes, I just jotted down my thoughts and ideals about this word. So some of the things that I came up with: impaired judgment, abuse, teens, disorder, consumption, and deaths. Okay, and so brainstorm for 5 or 10 minutes. What do you know about this topic? And this is an important step. This is not a step that you want to skip. Yes, I know you don't have to turn this step in, but it's a very important one, because without jotting down what you already know, this step will help you to see whether or not you know enough about that topic to write a 600 to 750 word essay. If you just pick a topic and say, I'm going to write this essay, and then you halfway through it and realize you can only come up with 400 words, that's a problem. Now you have to struggle trying to figure out what else to add to it. Or you start writing and your essay is 2,000 words, and the max is 650, well, then now you have to struggle with cutting it down. So the brainstorming process is really important. This helps you to figure out, okay, what do I know about this topic? And is this topic a valid topic for me to write about? Do I have enough content to write about? Okay, so don't skip the brainstorming process. Okay, so now that I have talked about alcoholism and I've written down my thoughts about it, my next step is to play around with, let's see, can I come up with a couple of concepts or statements about this topic? So I said, what do I know? Looking at my brainstorming, alcohol seems to be a growing problem in the United States. Okay, it seems to be an issue for underage drinkers too. So as I'm processing my thoughts, I'm like, well, what could I possibly write about? What could be my thesis statement? So here's my thesis statement. Alcoholism is a growing problem among teenagers in the United States, and those who consume it tend to experience physical, emotional, and legal problems. Now, that's a really good thesis statement, but does it fit the rule for a thesis statement? Does it contain the 3 parts? So remember the 3 parts. Identification is the topic. Did I list the topic in the thesis statement? The second part is the claim. Did I state my opinion about that topic? And then third, the direction. What direction will I go in? What is going to be the blueprint for this essay? Okay, let's put it to the test. The identification is alcoholism. Somewhere in the thesis statement, is one sentence, is the word alcoholism. That's my topic. Now, does it have to be the first sentence in that thesis statement, the first word in that thesis statement? No, it could be in the middle, it could be toward the end. As long as you have placed the topic in your thesis statement, that's what matters the most, okay? Next, what's my claim? My claim is that this is a growing issue for teenagers. So now I'm narrowing it down. Who is it a problem for? It's a problem for teenagers. Now, is it a problem for adults? Absolutely, but that's not the direction that I'm going in. I want to focus on how it's an issue for teenagers, and I identify that in my thesis statement. And then the direction, I'm going to discuss how it impacts teens. And I said earlier that it impacts them in 3 ways: physically, emotionally, and legally. So I know that as I begin to write this essay, I'm not going to start talking about adults. I'm not going to talk about how they overcome this issue, because that's not the focus of my essay. Brainstorming, doing this outline, fleshing out my ideals is going to help me make sure that I stay on focus and that I don't detour from the subject at all. Okay, so that's step 3. Okay. All right. So now that you know what to do, you're going to make sure that you go through all these steps. So you're going to go through the writing process. Your first step is to go into the lesson 3 folder, read the chapters 6, 7, and 8. Your next step is to look at the topics, look at the categories, pick a category. After you pick a category, pick a subtopic. You're only going to pick one subtopic, then brainstorm. You want to go through the writing process. Sit down, write whatever that subcategory is, put it at the top of the page, and then brainstorm. What do you know about that topic? Do you have enough information? Do you know enough about that topic to write 650 words? Okay. Once you've brainstormed, start putting little statements together, and then try to create a thesis statement, a workable thesis statement that contains those 3 parts: identification, which is the topic; the claim, what is your stance about that topic; and then the direction, the blueprint, the direction that the essay is going to go in. Okay. Once you go through those steps, you will create an outline, you will write a rough draft, and then after you write the rough draft, you will write a final draft. Now, it's important that I point out, while you do not have to submit the rough draft, I have created a discussion board on Blackboard for you to submit your rough draft there. And so that if you and another peer want to exchange ideas, maybe you request that a peer read your essay and you read theirs. That way you can get some peer feedback before you submit the final draft. Okay, so all that's left, guys, is to work through the folder. I hope that you guys are excited about this first essay. I can't wait to read them, but if you feel like you need a little bit more help, or if you have questions about what to do, definitely let me know. All right, guys. Now it's time to get your writing on and get started. Again, pick one of the approved topics, go through the steps, and then if you get stuck in any of those areas, definitely let me know. All right, well, this concludes this session, and I look forward to reading your essays, guys. Have a great day.